It's the GAA Social on BBC Sounds, and we've decided to speak to a very nice man, Oisín.
A gentleman.
Are we building him up too much? Is there any devilment in him at all?
See.
I'd say there's a rashness to him.
I'd say there has to be. Has to be another shade though.
We'll soon find out over the next hour. Anthony Cunningham, former Galway hurling manager, former Roscommon football manager, and Roscommon hurling manager as well. People kind of forget that. Tell me your facial expression, Oisín, that may have slipped you by. But no, you're only playing up because it's on YouTube now. That's the only reason why you're doing that. And what we do sometimes kind of forget, Anthony Cunningham, is that you played for Galway, 2 All-Irelands back-to-back, and successful player, and St Thomas's.
Yep.
Great club.
Yeah, they were very close.
Solid club. I remember seeing St Thomas's play Dunloy a few years ago in the Ireland semi-final, where Keelan Malloy scored one of the best goals I think I've ever seen in Croke Park, where he just, well, defensively maybe you'd have question marks. You're nodding away. But great pedigree, great coach, great manager, and at this time, the only person to have successfully managed a provincial winning team in football and in hurling. And this wrecks my head. How can you be at that top level in both? Do you get that a lot?
Not too much, but I guess it just happened. So I grew up in a hurling stronghold, which was South Galway. It was just all hurling in secondary school, all hurling in national school. And it just evolved from that. So you're always very strong club boys, and It was. I think we played maybe 1 or 2 football matches a year in school when the hurling competition was over.
Right.
There was probably a teacher or two who was keen on the football, so we'd trot out and play one match, and I think we got hammered by St Charles one year and hammered by someone else the following year. But you did that like in 3rd year or 4th year.
Yeah.
And there was something similar in St Thomas's. There was always the junior B or junior C football team. My buddies won't thank me for calling them junior C football. But yeah, you weren't allowed to play if you were with the county. You couldn't play really, football during the summer because you wouldn't be late, basically.
Yeah.
So I missed out on a fair bit of that. But I did play some football, very small amount. But mainly the reason why the football started was I got a job with Ericsson in Athlone straight after college. And Ericsson, that time had 72 engineers, and I got into the telecoms. What you know in your pocket probably is the mobile phone side. They had started off on that. And now Ericsson have 1,000 people here in Athlone. So I worked with them for years, and it was software development and huge amounts of travel, and went to France, went to Sweden, many different places with them. So that was a big employer. It was probably hard enough in those years to get a job, but it was a massive break to have got that. And then I looked around for someplace to live, and before I got a contract in France, and I worked out there and came home during the summers for hurling. I bought a site, and I barely knew where the site was, to be honest with you. And when we came back from France, I said, geez, I'll have to look for this field that I bought before I left. And that happened to be in Corramore, which is an area just down the road from where we're now, in St. Bridget's, and the club was St. Bridget's. But I always wanted it to sort of, I didn't want to live in town, no disregard or no disrespect to anybody. I said I'd like to live in a club where it'd be sort of a rural club or semi-rural club, that you'd have GAA basically. I didn't want to live in a town where you wouldn't have a chance. And there it was all football. And so just got into helping out coaching underage, and then kids came along and they were playing underage. So yeah, I did a good few years, I think at under 14, under 16. I was still hurling at the time and the only reason I got the under-16 team is that there was an early season. It was on in February, March, April, so it allowed you to be free for the summer. But they were very good, and I really enjoyed the club. And I think there was a lot of, in this area, here in particular. There's a lot that comes from different counties and settles here. And there's a lot of Mayo people here, and we've great Sligo matches, or Donegal people, just right around the country. So that's why I got into the football, and then I said, I like this enough, and got going with the underage, and it was, as I said, started off probably at under 16, under 14, 16, up to minor, and then I think we won 2 or 3 in a row, and then this was a bit of a push saying, well, you're now finishing up with your club hurling, and will you take the seniors? So that's basically how I got in. I worked with John O'Mahony for a year, which was another angle to it. And I remember they called to the house and they said, well, could we bring John O'Mahony to meet you? And I said, why would you be bringing him to meet me? Well, we have a plan. We want you to go in and work with him. So I said, yeah, look, we'll go down and talk to John. And such a gentleman, and it's quite poignant every time you think of Bridges winning, you think of John. From my perspective, he was very good in the early days, and not alone was he a good mentor for the team, but he's also a good mentor to me. And the reason I accepted the job at that stage was, they said, if you bring in John, we want you to be the manager and to learn off him, basically.
What age were you at that stage?
Oh God. Late 20s, I'd say, or 30. Yeah.
I never played football, Anthony.
No.
Bar the junior B, stroke C.
Bar the few bits we played in school. You'd knock around with a ball like now and again. We played so much hurling that you were delighted to play another game as well at times.
Okay.
So you'd be browned off because that area was high. There was a big push. I mean, up on the walls of the school where all the previous winners of hurling teams, Noel Lane, all these guys had won medals before that. So there was a big push that time. But but the football was great. And you were in an environment, and you were in a GAA environment. For me, living locally here, that was a great fill up, really. And so it was coaching courses, and there was guys here that I got to know quite well and got on with. Pádraig Shukru, who's I suppose part owner or one of the main directors here in this hotel. He was he joined, or he came to the same area at the same time. His sons play there now with Kieran and Michal with as an example. So there was always a great mix coming in.
Okay.
And Pádraig had played for South Kerry, and he is as an example. So we were, I suppose, buddies that time even, and got to, so most of the guys you were hanging around with were big football heads, really.
Yeah.
So it was great. Yeah, it's a great environment, and I'd have to say the club was always someplace you go to. So I was more interested in that than, say, being out and about in town. So
yeah. That's amazing how that actually.
So young though, so young to have a role, such an important role, like coaching wise.
I suppose. It was, I suppose, from late 20s to early 30s. And, then I sort of finished up with the hurling down home. There was a bit of travel for that. And then I was probably doing more of it here. So, But it was good, I would have to say, Great.
You're looking well. You're looking healthy. Good tan skin about you, Anthony, has to be said. That's the skin you want, unlike the two snowmen here sitting opposite you. We had heard that you weren't well. And it turns out that we weren't the only ones that heard you weren't well.
Yeah, there's some wild rumours there for the last 3 or 4 months that I had cancer and I was sick and that type of stuff. So there's nothing further from the truth, really, in that. So it's a bit of a shock, really, when you hear that type of stuff. So I don't know where it ever came from day one, but I train and work out and try and do as much as I can. It's a big plus. I work in the university there in a research group, and one of the pluses with the college is there's an indoor running track and an outdoor running track within 50 metres of my desk. There's a gym. A lot of the county teams, it's a high performance gym that we get into at times. But it's very much sports oriented. A lot of the teams come there. A lot of, even you get, some of the international soccer teams come at times, rugby, hockey. And of course the GAA teams. So I love to work out at work at lunchtime even, or evening time. So it was a shock, really, that there. And I would like to acknowledge all the concerned people that rang and contacted me and saying was okay, but was fine and perfect. Couldn't be fitter. Yeah, I don't know. This happens from time to time, I gather now, because you probably hear from time to time that, these wild rumours go out about something mad or that.
Well, wild rumours then quickly turned to fact. People thought you had cancer. I'm sure there's more. And I'm just like, I have to be honest, you nearly think, right, he must do. You kind of believe it. And the rumour thing, which is a very peculiar thing, because there's one bit of me I'm nearly angst to actually bring it up to feed, but I think it's just bringing clarity is always a good thing in life. Frank McGuigan, who previously played for Tyrone, who you will know of, I'm sure, took a heart attack quite recently. Thankfully, he's doing well and he's in good spirits. His son Brian texted me when his father took the heart attack and was in the hospital and things weren't great. And Brian essentially texted me saying, "Do you mind putting out a statement to say that Daddy's not dead?" Which is a very peculiar thing, and not that I would be writing a statement or anything like that, but just there's a rumor going about that Daddy's dead and Daddy's not dead. So I was like, look, I'll put it on my Twitter, as strange as this may really, really sound, and then that quelled it immediately. Now, that's an extreme example, Anthony, don't get me wrong, but it's just an example of how these things catch fire, and obviously your family
abroad, yeah,
not just living here, and then all that comes in.
It's just, I guess it's just modern society as well. As you said, it has moved on to, it's just, it can be wild sometimes, some of the stuff you hear, but no, I'm finest. And no, thanks for all the people. Yeah, that's the other thing, like this. You'd say thanks to all the people that are, were concerned and contacted me and wish me well or whatever. But I guess it's a part of maybe modern life as well, with the communication systems now, and it's Twitter and it's Facebook and it's it's.
And were some of your former players ringing you, or just?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, got quite a lot of them give me quick calls and say, "You're all right." And
you've probably noticed missed calls as well.
Missed calls,
right?
Yeah, there was about a week there was constant, and but. Yeah, what can you do? You can't do a thing, So just tell them all I'm fine. Could be better, and I'm
spread the news.
Spread the news, exactly.
But the interesting thing about that is then that leads into people going, no, he's in denial. Oh, I heard. And by the way, I'm not saying people have said that to me. I'm just hypothesizing here, Anthony. But I'm just talking about how they can linger.
Yeah. But that's I think it's modern society, a lot of it. Yeah.
Doesn't bother you, relatively speaking.
No.
you wish it wasn't the case, but you're not.
Yeah, but
losing any
nothing
sleep
you do.
over it.
You just beat on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're looking well anyway, and it's great to see that you're actually well and great. But over the next maybe 45 minutes now, we'll see how you're feeling, like with sitting in front of us two boyos. How do you feel after the All-Ireland Club final? It's period of time's passed, Anthony, not that long now. What way do you digest an All-Ireland Club final defeat like that?
Yeah, it was very difficult, being honest. I suppose, if you hadn't played as well as we did, and you even leaked a late goal or something, you'd say, well, fair enough, But we were in the front foot and had dominated large parts of the game. And it just, it appeared, I suppose in hindsight, when you look back, it's probably Dingle had their name on it. They had a lot of really close calls.
Yeah.
Particularly the day against the Pinbars in the Munster final. But they just never gave up. Probably disappointed that probably when we were in a really, really strong position in an extra time, that we didn't close it out.
Have you watched it back?
Yeah, very little. I watched parts of it. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I would have watched
tough.
Quite easy to take out the normal match and then watch extra time, etc. Probably unlucky, maybe, that we might have got us a free or two when it was that tight. It was probably one particular play that, 9 times out of 10 you could have got a free, but
Some people think, who maybe aren't directly involved, the game itself got so much good press, and rightly so, I think, for being
Yeah.
the game that it was, the skill set, and also the drama, which people love apart from those involved. Can you tell people how little consolation you take out of it being somebody coming up and saying, "Well, I tell you what, it was a great game."
Yeah, it's just people being nice and it's just you'd say the same thing yourself if you were saying it, to someone you knew quite well. You'd say, "Oh, it's a great game, but you were in hard luck or whatever." But it was just a bit of misfortune because of hard luck. Whether it was 8 points to 9 or 4-3, you didn't care as long as you won.
Of course,
over the years. But I know they're a great set of players and a great set of young players coming through. You'd have to be so thankful for that. It's a really, really enjoyable. It was a really, really enjoyable couple of years, really, and they're so driven to get better and to do the right things and to train. There's never a problem.
Okay.
They're a great set of men and great set of families that have reared them. I think you'd have to say their parents have to be so proud of, and that's right across the GAA fraternity. I think it's one of you asked me earlier, like why did you settle here or whatever. It's great to have a GAA influence, I think, in your life.
Yeah.
It's a great. It grounds you. For going out into the big bad world, it teaches you like. There's highs and lows. You have to learn how to lose as well.
Does it, Anthony?
Yeah.
Is it good grounding, or are we nearly biased in
No, I
saying that?
definitely think it's a great upbringing. If you didn't have it, if you didn't have the GAA and the level of sport that we have, I think there'd be a lot of other problems. You have social problems, and you have people who are maybe. Work really hard and they don't get a break, and the only break they get now is sport, and it's a great outlet for people, for sure. And it's a great leveler as well, really.
What's the biggest challenge with it?
The biggest challenge with
let's say, for example, if we think about club management, what's the biggest challenge with club management now?
The biggest challenge for me is the length of the season is one.
Right.
The amount of breaks is ridiculously poor. I've done 2 years just now. I've done several years before, but the volume of work now compared to 10 years ago or 15 years ago versus now is way higher. It's probably like where an intercounty team was 10 years ago or 5 years ago even. So we've got, obviously, we have a full-time S&C, Keane O'Dea, who's class act, and the level of work that goes on that goes on in nights that we don't train is as much as the nights we train. Like their gymming, their recovery, they're taught all of this now, which is great for the modern athlete, really, or the modern GAA person. But no, it's for us.
So mainly the length of the season.
The length of the season, Oisin, is huge. Like you started off the last 2 years, like in February, first weekend of February, you had a league match, and you had a league match for every 2 weeks after that, and it ran really well. And not you'd have to take hats off to the fixtures committees. It ran very smoothly. I wouldn't say there was one of them cancelled. You just play it. So you had a league match every 2 weeks, and a league final back end of June, probably start of July, and then you had your group matches into championship. You probably had most of the county guys back, and you're off again. And this year, like it flew into we had a replay in the county final. Then 2 weeks after that, again you're back into a Connacht championship.
Yeah.
So it flies really, but there's a lot of work, huge amount of work. So we've gone from February now right through to when was it? December, just as a full year. So I think there's no doubt about it. It is going to cause problems. I think for the club player, we can't lose this.
I don't know if we've ever had anybody better qualified to answer this next question, as far as you've seen it from intercounty level, you've seen it intercounty football and hurling, you've coached at underage, You've coached at club level, but you've coached at club level now, and you've coached at club level back when the season was back when the season was different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So what was the better balance for you, do you think?
You see, the way clubs have gone now is that they're buying in, buying experience, and trying to build. You know, they're watching all the moves that happened at you're with Intercounty, even at, you sort of say, well, we'll watch what happens in Roscommon, we'll watch whatever happens in Wicklow or in Dublin, or this is what other teams do. We'll know how many, you know, that you're on 2 panels, or that you have a second panel and you have a development plan. I mean, that was big in at the intercounties, and it's something that we push really hard. When I was with the intercounty scene in Galway and the Hurling, we had, you know, a second team coming, or that we had very, very close cooperation with the under 21s, under 20s now. But you know, I was 3 years with the under 21s, and then was able to go in. You knew who was coming, so you're also saying now the second team and the bigger clubs. You have a handle on that as well. You're trying to get a handle on it, and you're saying, well, here's a pathway for you. You're now not just 19 here. You're going to be a senior player in 3 years' time, 4 years' time. This is what you've got to do. You've got to play with the second team. You've got to gym up. So it's huge amount of work, but I don't see it stopping because the appetite is there. So
Fixtures wise, though. Fixtures wise,
it's really hard. It's very hard on. I think, you know, there could be up to 7 St. Bridget's players there on a county senior panel.
Has a split season made it worse for club players or better?
It's very hard in that the length of time the players, the intercounty guys are playing, the club guys are playing. So it's for everybody. It's got way longer. There's no doubt. And
there's not a lot of people saying that from your position, actually, I'm finding.
I think it'll come through in time. Yeah, I think it'll come through in time. You know, I see you would probably have a lot of clubs who are happy in that they have a defined, but it's not, to me, it's not the finished article yet. Yeah. I think, I don't know, I think maybe some of the provincial championships in football are you know, is a good gone out of them, bar Ulster. I think it's the best one. It's really competitive, and our other counties just sort of trying, you know, at an inter-county setup, trying to you know, get a, you know, I time my run. I don't massively care. I use the league for building, but and the minute they're over, they're back into club championship, and then club championship goes into a provincial. And you know, there's X amount of players that are really gone so long. So I don't know if it's understood fully, but I would suggest that it really needs to be analysed and gone through.
I think it's really great to shine a light on it from some of your experience, because it's just, you're coming at it from a multi-angled way. We haven't even touched on hurling, Anthony, at this stage, but just even football. But it's the same in hurling in so many ways. But I mean, clubs start in November. Generally speaking, right? You're doing your SSC, clubs start, and I'm not talking about your bigger senior St. Bridget's club, although you are at the back end of the provincial championship, so maybe you're going on a little bit later. But your intermediate clubs are doing the same. You're starting in November. Your first team meeting's probably in November, which, well, on paper is before the inter-county boys are allowed to come back on paper, and. They're doing their training. They're doing that over Christmas, and then leagues will start. They tend to be March usually. You know, it's different every county. Like you were talking about February there, and then it's kind of shadow boxing until the end of the summer when the inter-county boys are back and we go full on championship. Then it's up to each county board. Tyrone are the only ones that just seem to go right, just do straight knockout. So that actually puts a better emphasis on their league.
Yes.
You know, it definitely does, but there's a ruthlessness to it as well. If you're caught one day, you're gone. But adds to the beauty of it. So, if you're November and you're playing your club championship, and let's say you make a quarter final of your club championship, you're playing in September. Like that is sort of end of August, September time. You're probably still at quarter-final stage. Semi-final, end of September. County final, usually around the 20th of October. I tend to find for a lot of them. So it's 12 months. Because it's 12 months even without you winning a senior football championship or a senior hurling championship. So then
I'll go into an All-Ireland final.
if you do what Anthony has, you're going on to 13, 14 months, which means you're pushing into the next season. So then we haven't even touched upon the commitment required from the inter-county footballers, who it's not a split season for them. Yeah. So, what is the answer? What is a better way of doing it? Do you think?
Gee, it's a hard one. I would just say that the only thing I would say is that I think with some of the inter-county matches, and I give an example there of the provincials. Are they better off to bite the bullet now and say, here, let's take these out?
Okay. Would you do that? Do you think that's the way to go?
I think it needs to be examined to some degree.
Well, it was examined.
The other small thing I think they've missed the boat on is results on the day as well. There has to be a result on the day.
Yeah.
So in the club championships this year, like if we had drawn the extra time, it was going to penalties, and it was all in one day. I think they have to go for that at inter-county to try and shorten it.
In fact,
try and save some of it.
What they've done is they've
done the opposite.
They've done the opposite. Yeah, they've reeled back on it.
Yeah.
Well, do you want Anthony fair play to you about, because you're about the only person that's actually said that. I am, nothing in this conversation. Get it finished on the day. But I have always felt that, and that has actually very little to do with the ramifications, at which point we're framing this discussion around that and the impact of that. Just, to come back another day. But I'm a bit odd like that. I have no problem finishing the game with penalties. They're big enough boys. Like, it's a cruel way to go out, undoubtedly. I accept that. But you know what? Oh, no, it's a cruel way to go out. Sure, we'll go again. We don't have the calendar to do that, so that means that you have to make those calls. So now, if it's a final, it will be replayed. Yeah.
I'm not saying it might be the final thing that you should do, but at least I think it should be looked at. I don't think the fixtures / the councils that run the organisation, and they do great work. Don't get me wrong whatsoever. I'm not here to criticise anybody, but I do think they need to do what you're doing there, asking the questions. How can we try and save some of the club players / the inter-county players and have a bigger lifespan for their career?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it's going down a road that people will retire that bit earlier, get out of stuff, and we don't want to see that. We just need to be really, really careful.
It's a really interesting take, isn't it? And you're right, Oisín. I mean, it's as well qualified a person as we could probably have in front of us that's seen all angles of this.
Yeah. I just think people want to change. We've got change, and now people don't want to be saying, I wouldn't mind a bit more change. But I agree. I think it's something that needs to be looked at again, because the club player is maybe not as happy as people think they are. I know they have a definitive season, but that definitive season is now 12 months.
Well, then let me turn that. Is the fault then with the clubs? Why do you need to be back in November? Is it nearly that we're trained our minds that we have to get back the earlier as possible to get one up on those and down the road? Like, really, should the leagues not be played over 12 consecutive weeks? Maybe 12 out of 14 weeks. April, May, June.
Well, that would be the essence of a proper split season.
Yeah. So you push into that league. Do you know what? To make it same for everybody, your leagues finish All Ireland end of July. In July.
Well, if you did that, you could start late April.
Yeah.
Early May.
And then you've no need to be back in November. Now look, you'll be flat out going back in November. In fact, you'll go October.
No, if you were in April, like there would be, I would say that would take away the starting in the previous calendar year.
I think the calendar year is just, I think we're so programmed around the month the time. We've been groomed by it, like our entire lives, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're after Christmas and you're bored and there's long, wet winter nights. Gee, if we get another winter like what we are after getting rain-wise, just lads will be just stone mad to get out, get to a gym, get to whatever. I'm not. Yeah, it's just the length of it for when it really starts. It's the length of it, and I do think it has shortened slightly because of the results on the day. They've got better at that. Fixtures have got better. Like there's probably extra time now, no matter what.
Yeah.
On the first, even if it's a county final, the first day. Previously, county final the first day, and it was a draw. Oh, replay in 3 weeks' time. What? Why? So now they will say county final and extra time, and if it's still a draw after that, then it's in a week's time, and penalties and all these will come into it in time.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that because it's better, it's more fun.
It's better. And we're definitely seeing that on the county level. Even a broadcasting sense, when we're covering games in the BBC, the Ulster Championship, it would have been traditionally a game a week.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's the Saturday-Sunday combo. And look, that puts a lot of pressure on your provincial councils. There's no question about that. But it's, that's grand. It puts a lot of pressure on broadcasters, BBC, RTE, as well. But that's grand. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, like, the GAA has definitely moved in that way. But
you boys will be able to go off to the Bahamas or somewhere then for the last quarter.
Flat to the mat, yeah. We're due a podcast in the Bahamas now, in fairness.
August, please.
We're sick of looking at each other by the time we hit August. But I think that's really interesting. That do we have to be just disciplined enough to really play the club season May, June, July, as strange as that may sound, and play it over them 3 months, end of April, as you say there, and then come August, you're nearly building in that the players that even get to the latter stages of an All-Ireland can get at least a few weeks off, and you're good to go for the end of August, September, and run it through. But like, it's tough. It's tough. We haven't even touched on dual as well. Not enough months in the year.
No, it is. It's not. Look, it's not simple. It's not simple. But I do think that, as I say, maybe club players are not as happy as what we maybe would have seen to begin with. I think they realise just how long that season is now.
Yeah, I don't know if club. Is that what you're finding? Is it? I just find young club players now love it. And will do, they just love it.
Yeah, and I do think they are really good. They love it when it's well organised. There's a reason why they're doing their gym work.
Yeah,
there's a reason why we're working on X amount of coaching in for this month, and this is what we're going after. And technically, the game has changed as well with the new rules. So there's quite a lot of challenges there, and they really love it when they're being challenged or being taught, and you're working on some plan.
But that's nothing to do with the split season, the condensed.
No,
I just mean they love it, as in, like, most senior clubs now, and like you can make this argument in intermediate clubs, but they're high performing units. Like you've just described St. Bridget's, like SSC guy. No, he's not just coming Tuesday, Thursday here. So they're high performing units. If you're part of that, you're loving it. You're
absolutely,
you're enjoying it. So I'm not finding the club player Oisín sort of saying to me, "Oh, look, this is going on."
Well, even if you're not finding that, do you not think at some stage we need to just save people from themselves?
Well, I think that's exactly it. But you've touched upon it a couple of times there. But like the provincial championship, we're always quite torn around this. Particularly the pair of us are from Ulster as well. It's you know yourself, Anthony. It's a massive thing. But it's not fair. I mean, geography shouldn't have anything to do with fairness of our competitions, and I slightly weigh down a bit more on that than 5 months or the Munster Hurling Championship, which is deadly. I mean, it's always that, be careful what you wish for. And I accept that, but ultimately it's not fair because of geography, and whilst that's great and it's precious, it's not fair. And you can cruise through, depending on geography, to an All-Ireland quarter-final. roughly speaking.
Yeah.
And whereas you come from another part of Ireland, you don't have that.
Yeah, and there's no doubt, as you said, Munster hurling and Ulster and the football, yeah, for sure. They're anybody can win, really.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you have it? Let's make the case for them. Of course you should. Why would they change that? I mean, it's a beloved thing to win. A Munster medal or an Ulster football medal. I'm not saying it's still not beloved either in the other provinces.
Of course not. No, I get that.
There's far more competition. You look at the records there, even the recent records. Any of the teams in say Munster hurling can win, and it's the same in Ulster, in the football. So, if you're president of the GAA or you're one of the leading lights in setting the programs, you'll want to keep that for sure. It's just I think they need to be smarter really on the games and limiting maybe unnecessary games, and they're gone after in some way some of the pre-season tournaments and can't have those. But no matter who you are, if you're out in the league, you still want to have some preparation time.
Mm-hmm.
I always said that, I've been saying this for years, is that I would love to keep the provincial championships, but I don't think they can exist if we want the best and we want the fairness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the provincial championships, in my book, is the sacrificial lamb in order to make that happen. But that's not going to... I've accepted now, take me a long time, but I've accepted at 50 years of age that is not going to happen because there's too much skin in the game for provincial counties.
Yeah.
This was, remember, it was muted at Congress, and it was...
Well, no, I think to be fair, I think one of the leading, in fact, I think it's fair to say the leading person was Brian McAvoy, the Ulster CEO, who really, I think there was a sense going into that Congress that they would cut the link between the provincial championship and your pathway into the All Ireland, and he was very much like that needs to be there. And like if I was arguing for the Ulster championship, I would say exactly the same thing because that puts an importance on the Ulster Championship. Yeah. If you remove that, so it's a cup, but then we go on to a different competition, then you're going down into the FBD League or the McKenna Cup and that kind of thing where you play a competition, you get a cup, but it's no ramifications to the bigger competitions, the more prestigious ones. But if that link is there, then that saves the Provincial Championship. If that link is not there, then it kills the Provincial Championship. It turns in an Ulster Championship, guys, the Ulster Championship into the McKenna Cup. It's played earlier in the season, and you come up with a league-based championship, All Ireland, where it's maybe 4 groups of 4, and the top 2 qualify for the knockout stages, for example. And you run your Talton Cup as well alongside that. I feel like I've just gone off on one, have I?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
You did, yeah.
Okay, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I don't think so. I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's not on the table. Yeah. Do you think inter-county football hurling have gone far enough now to warrant professionalism?
It's a big elephant in the room, isn't it? I think we'll see it at some stage, some days, for sure. Yeah. It also depends on...
Why do you think... Why do you think our GAA is so death against it?
I don't know if they have the same perspective of when you're in the... if you're a player, say, or if you're coaching and managing or whatever, and you're in the cold face of it, I think it's a different view. You have a slightly different view than, say, if you're orchestrating the rules and the running of the association. If we can get better players and a better product, why wouldn't we go in some way professional to a degree? It's I think we have to help our inter-county players if that's who's there on it and who concerns. They're going to need time off. If we wanted to go to a professional game, or if it's go semi-professional for us and then professional in time. But I think we probably won't see that in maybe our lifetime, but with the way I think with the way the exchequer is and the way the country is and the prosperity that's in it, you'll see it in time, probably. If the organisation, says yes, we should go. You started off saying, will this help? If you are full time, will it help the game? It'll be a better product, probably.
Right, but you said they're not in your lifetime. You don't.
Probably. I'm getting on now.
Well, no. I don't want to put any numbers on it, but particularly with our earlier conversation and everything around that, it should not be laughing. But in 20 years' time,
Yeah,
do you see it happening in 20 years' time?
I think they have to embrace it, and they definitely have to. I would love if they did studies on and looked at what has happened in other countries, and say in America, what has happened with baseball or what has happened with American football, and how did it evolve into, I don't know if there's ever studies done on those, but they're interesting things to do, because I think the GAA is unique, but can it sustain where it is, or will the players demand, let's get to another level? I think they're pushy. They're really good, the players, I think, and they want to get fitter, they want to get stronger, they want to get a better on recovery. Their skill level wants to get better for sure, and I think we, as a country, we should really help that.
I think there's three things there. I think finance is going to be the first one. I think second one is scale. Like you mentioned baseball there, like a lot more people going to see the baseball than going to watch GAA. And then the third thing is probably, like, this just off me, I didn't really expect this to come up here today, but the club. So that kind of then puts your, nearly like the rugby model, you would still see in the team sheet, it will say, Andrew Trimble playing wing for Ireland, his club is province is Ulster, his club Korean, so it's nearly like you're registered with your club, but you're not in any way playing for your club. Whereas the older rugby fellas would have been playing a bit of club if they were playing for Connacht or whatever. So you're probably cutting that, or do you think there's a way to make to?
Yeah, your question was, how do you make it better for the club, and do you think the club players will embrace it and go? I most definitely think they will.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. The ambition of young players coming out is huge. They want to get better. Their skill set wants to get better. Their analysis of the game, the work that you give them to do, they'll lap it up. They want to. Can they sustain it? They start out and they build a house or start a family. Can they sustain it with working 5 days a week in a 9 to 6 job? It's probably difficult.
I just automatically think, like, is Gaelic games big enough to pay for that?
Well, you're talking about scale. So you're talking about we don't have the scale to scale it to the baseball or the NFL.
Well,
that's fair enough.
Yeah, attendance is at grounds, like,
Yeah, but that's fair enough. But
imagine 50% of that.
Imagine the product is better. Imagine the product's different. Imagine the elite. You're not getting to see the elite kicking around at your own club. You're not getting to see the elite playing for the club that you love, or the neighbouring club or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Do you think would that put more bums in seats?
I think.
And then scale wise, like, I don't think anybody's gonna be getting the numbers that the quarterback with the Cowboys is gonna get. I think he's on 365 million over 4 years or something.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to get to that. But scale wise, could you see us getting to a model where it would be comfortable for a lad to live and spend his 10 years playing into county football?
Well, let's drill down on it now. 100 grand. 100 grand a year for maybe a 6-year inter-county career.
For 35 people.
Really expensive.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
So I would say that, if you're talking about even 50% of your gate in league games, that's more than that. So that's where I talk about the scale. Like, where's the money to do that? Like, for example,
well, I don't think
if you were getting 15 grand a year to be a semi-professional, is it worth it? It's not, because you're actually denigrating your career, whatever that is. If you're on the tools, you're on site, you're in the lab, you're reading the news.
Yeah, your teacher, like, there's a lot of huge amount of probably the inter-county your teachers, and they want to build up their experience in that and maybe go on to be principals or vice principals or do other you know.
I just
So you're saying it's possible then?
no. No,
It's
I just don't think there's the money in it. No, I think that's an interesting thought. The only time you get to see Oisin McConville is not playing for Crossmaglen Rangers, is playing for Armagh, and I'll go to that. I mean, you don't expect Cristiano Ronaldo to be playing for a level below.
You're obviously going to extend the amount of games as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe home and away league games. You keep the purse of, not the purse, but the attendance, whatever the attendance figure is. You keep the takings from that, and you drive your own. Because that's not the way it works. I couldn't believe it that that's not the way it works at intercounty level. But you're driving your own economy really then.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think.
But it feels as if I'm not selling it to you completely.
No. I'm an open book and always open minded around these things. I always like playing in the grey and pushing the boundaries around things, because that's good to sort of ask these questions. Like the bit that clicks with me the most, what you said there was the only time you get to see that person is playing intercounty. Would you go to it? I think the biggest thing is, you imagine not playing for Cross. You live in Cross. I'm going to go full time with Armagh. I'm taking me 65 grand a year. That's my job. I'm going to knuckle down for 4 or 5 years.
I wouldn't be happy with that, because I'm after losing 35 grand there.
I know, but we've all rolled back. We've all rolled back from the 100 grand, seeing
By the time we're finished, we'll be on 5 grand a piece, aren't we?
seeing the 3.5 million figure there for players over the course of the year. But you're living in that community, and your brother's playing for Cross, but no, I'm not doing it. Cross lose by a point to Silver Bridge. Oh, there's McConville.
I do get that, but if you if you just look at other sports, right, and you think they're trained in a certain way, it doesn't take a fidge out of any lad who's, let's say they're transferring from their boyhood club, who happens to be Rochdale, and they're going to United. It doesn't take a fidge out of people.
No.
Do you mean? And that's because why? Why is that?
Well, it's money, and it's playing a better level.
Not even that, but I actually.
What is it then?
No, they're two good points, but you're not right. But I think it's because that's the norm. That's what happens. That's just the way it is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you say, I often like the mindset of, let's say, professional footballers is unbelievable, because you say, oh, well, such and such let you go. Well, they were probably right to let me go at that time, but now I've moved on, and I'd be absolutely ripping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd hold that against them for the rest of my life.
You would.
But that's just ingrained in them. That's just it. It's a different mindset completely. And
it's culture, Oisin, is it?
Culture, exactly. Different mindset, different culture. And all of a sudden you move on, and we move on, and 10 years down the lane, people wouldn't know what club you ever played for.
Right. Let's cut to the chase. Would we have a better product? See, even that word, I hate that word product, because the reality is you kind of thinking the GAA is not a process more than that, but the reality is it is. The commercial decisions around the GAA.
Yeah, based on the product, really.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we could have a better product, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think in a full-time environment, you're going to lead to better players, obviously. That would make sense.
There would be X amount of players that'll say, yeah, that's the, at their age group. Like if you take a fella from 18, 19, 20, say, to 24, 25, and he gets that opportunity, he'll really want to go for it.
Yeah.
I think.
I think
just
so,
be driven to get to the next level. And
I think you have them coming out of school.
I don't think you'll have any bother getting numbers to play this game. That's
for 65 grand or 100 grand, which one? Either.
Yeah, I would.
And
say
then how do I phrase this? I'll probably use. What do you play the corner? What do you pay the cornerback, and what do you pay David Clifford?
No, hang on now. You're speaking like a free taker from Crossmaglen and Armagh here now. See, straight away there, you weren't happy. The minute I give you 35 grand pay cut, you start. You don't want to. Nobody wants to be a Gary Neville.
Oh no,
Nobody wants to be a Gary Neville.
No, that ship has sailed for me. So I'm not. I don't have any skin in the game. But what do you give the cornerback, and what do you give David Clifford?
But therein is the problem. I'm David Clifford. I am the man. Hang on. Cornerback. Well, no, fair enough. They have Thomas Sullivan, to be fair. He's pretty good too. He's the best forward in Kerry at the minute. But I take your point. Yeah, the superstar of the game should get paid more, like all other sports. The quarterback, the striker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I think small steps at a time, I'd say. On that.
We've come too far, haven't we?
Well, it's definitely not in any of our lifetime. I think the tail end of that. Like, do you know what? Actually, we did not expect to get into this at all, but that is really interesting to throw that about, isn't it? I don't think we've ever actually thrown it about to that level. Well, what does professionalism look like? What do we think? And we're coming at this half-baked as well.
How did the NFL start? Let's say somebody came in and they said, I'm starting a rival franchise.
Right.
If you like.
Live GAA. Right? Live GAA.
No, what?
Right, that's
Let's
what we're
just say
talking
for
about
a second, right? Just bear with me a second. But if they did come in, right? And they wanted to pay the best players to move to this other product.
Okay.
Would they move?
Some would.
Right.
Yeah. If the money was right.
Right. Well, that says everything then. Do you know what I mean? That's your point. I don't
It's
know.
happening in golf.
Yeah.
As you said.
I think so. No, look, I'm not putting a number on that, but if even one person decides to join it, that is some. So that's me covered. But I think it comes down to a career choice then. Life is short.
Did you see that happening?
I don't think...
Do you think there's been people in this country that have sat down and thought that could possibly be a runner?
I think if you talk about the end game, which is paid professionalism of some description, representing your county, look, it's a good number. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's... We look at the rugby model, Ulster, Munster. Maybe it's your province. Maybe it's diluted even in that way, which reduces the number of teams, but it allows you to pay them more. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting thing to throw about. I think ultimately just to get from where we're at now to wherever it is in your mind is that end professionalism, live GAA, right? I think the chaos in the middle to get to that, the club, disruption of community, all these things that we talk about in GAA would be such a... that it would be very difficult.
A bombshell at the start.
Here.
Yeah, but if you look at the whole landscape, you do always want to get better. And the game has got better, or the GAA games have got way better, like over the years. Let's be honest, sort of why? Through coaching, through the environment, through the facilities that's there, the extra competition. Yeah, I mean, there is a reason for it. So what's the next step? And I don't think, I think everybody should really always be posing those questions that you talked about. Really, where's the next generation of GAA going to go to?
Yeah.
Do you think there's just an expectation that things are just going to be?
Oh, sure, we're happy out now. Off we go. But I would probably agree with you in a lot of what you say. I think people are happy with that, but I don't know if they have the foresight or if they're really involved with it at the cold face and say, well, gee, I'd love to do this. Is my, if it was new world, off you go and be, you're able to take 10 years out of your professional life and do full-time sport. It would be super, But I do think they have to go with this. There has to be some work put into it, because we will lose really good players to rugby and football, soccer down the line. I really do, and it's a pity. And the other side is if you leave something and you're happy with it, then in time it'll become stale and stagnant. You always have to be pushing the boundaries, I think, in sport. So, you are right. I think they should pose the questions and they should study it and try and come up with a model that say, well, how do we get better at this?
There you go. That's not the podcast I imagined at all. But
with all that in mind,
here's the reverse lights on now.
No. With all that in mind, and I know you're taking a well-deserved break at the minute. There's two questions, right? There's two burning questions for me. when you put yourself out there the way you have as far as coaching and management is concerned, you obviously have had some brilliant days, but you've also had some days where the disappointments. How do you deal with the disappointments? Like I can see today, like we're quite well down the road as far as the All Ireland final. I can still see that's hurting you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the longer you're in the game, the whole game, the harder you take it, because you have only finite time left, or you're putting even extra work into it than we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and it consumes you to some degree, or you give up playing golf for the last year, or you won't go on as many holidays as your better half asks you to go on, or whatever. And you're driven really for a passion to stay here and a sport, and it's a game. It's really, really. I mean, if you love it, it's what you want to be at every day.
Yeah.
So it is raw, and it is always going to be there. And you might say, when you are right, like you say, I don't listen to what your intro was, or go through that stuff. But I can tell you, I don't know what I wouldn't know every single game we've won down through the years. But I tell you, I can vividly remember losing to Cross McLean, or being in a winning position with Gary Castle to go and win the All Ireland, and getting caught and a draw and getting well beaten the next day. So you'll remember those in detail, and you that's just the sport thing that's in you.
Yeah.
And it's the same now. So it gets hard, there's no doubt. And gets harder, I think, as you go on. It's what you love,
It's a love-hate thing, isn't it? But it balances out. It just...
Yeah.
I don't think somebody like you can properly walk away from it. I really don't. And I have no doubt that you have the capacity to enjoy the next 10 months, but the phone call's coming, and
if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it's
well, there definitely will be phone calls coming. It's just
there'll be a lot now when this goes out.
No.
So you're saying he's not taking St. Bridget's, and that wasn't a definite no that he said there. What's it, Thomas? Send me on Anthony Cunningham's number there, please.
No. No, definitely we're taking a break for a while, but let's see.
Great stuff, Anthony. Brilliant. Really enjoyed that. Did not expect it to go that way. I think we've solved the whole thing there with the guts of an hour, and
we've saved a lot of people a lot of hassle.
Yeah. We've just we're live gas definitely the phrase that's come out, but just I can't. It was just really good. It was good to throw it about, wasn't it? I mean, it really was. It just felt like just here, let's go wacky here and let's really try and throw these things about. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, actually, maybe is there a semblance of something?
No hope I'd say in a lot of that.
But yeah, I can't see it happening. As we said, our lifetimes. But you never know. Go well, Anthony. Look after yourself. We may see you in the near future. We'll see. Take the break, enjoy it. But it's a disease. This thing. It is, man. It just gets you. It gets you. So it does. So we'll see. But enjoy the break anyway, Don, our fella, and congratulations on a fine career. It's nearly say you're retiring, but it has been just to do the hurling and the football piece at such a high level. Like when you named the really great players that you work with there, you were football, you were hurling, you were football. I just think to have the respect of those figures, and I was speaking to a couple of Galway players that played under you before this today, and they hold you in high esteem. So go well, fella. Don't be a stranger. Please God, we will see you soon. Oisín, same as yourself.
Thomas.
Many more podcasts on BBC Sounds and many more Gaelic Games coverage right across the BBC, including the BBC Sport website. But from Oisín McConville, great Anthony Cunningham, and myself, thanks for listening.